Welcome to a Halloween edition of the Sports Clinic discussing Pakistan cricket, a review of the past couple of games and look forward. And with me are two ghouls and goblins. We have Amar Khan and Permeet, um, both of whom are actually big Fakhar Zaman fans, which is why I invited them today. Because despite an entire World Cup on the sidelines, he was back in the starting lineup today in the first 11 as an opener, and he powered Pakistan to basically a pretty comprehensive win over Bangladesh in the end. He didn't go crazy, strike rate of only about 110, but he did hit seven sixes. Let's look back at South Africa, look at today's game against Bangladesh, put it all together, and look forward. Where did this team mess up, and how big of an omission was Fakhar Zaman in place of Imam Al Haq? How big of a mistake was that by the think tank? We'll start with Amar Khan, who, as you famously, listeners of this podcast will famously remember, said before I think it was the India game, that or the Australia game, before the Australia game, that we should have Fakhar in place of Imam. The PCB listened to that podcast, hemmed and hawed about it, waited a few weeks, but finally made the right decision. Take it away.
I would just like to say that I like to see that we're going viral and we've got like PCB listening to us, because I think that if they were doing that a while ago, we would have not be where we are. Like in the doc, I think that in if there's one player, I would think in my team that can be like, we use the word game changers, right? For me, that is Fakhar Zaman. I think that he has the ability to do things that nobody else in your team does. And it makes me explode with joy when I see him play, because it's like he plays with freedom and he plays with a fire within himself. And I appreciate that about anybody. But I don't think we have many players like that. The reason why I wanted Imam out was because our entire top order is incredibly defensive. The number of attacking shots we play is not enough to begin with. So my logical idea was that why don't you bring in somebody who can increase that number for us? I would rather take a 20 ball 30 than a 40 ball 40. I would do that. Okay. And that is the guy that can do that for us. I don't even know where to begin with the South Africa game. Like, I am so embarrassed as to see how our batting performed. I mean, it's shocking that the fielding that went on in that game. Like, I refuse to even like I've seen everybody on this podcast has seen Pakistan cricket for the last 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, whatever. We've always known that our fielding is bad, right? But then once in a while we have a performance where we are specifically reminded about how bad it is. That was that performance. Shaheen was breakdancing on the bloody boundary. Like, what was he doing? Did the DJ play the song too soon? Is that something that happened? Maybe he waited for him to, like, I don't know. It was an absolute joke. Hassan Ali thought for a second that he was playing for the other team. He was holding the ball and he was pushing it towards the boundary when he should be the one pushing away from it. You cannot cure these things in a matter of 1 to 2 weeks. Today, I watched the game and I felt that they were a bit more supercharged. I don't know, maybe I think it was, I don't know where the match was today. I don't even know. Was it in Chennai? No, it was not in Chennai, was it? No, it was in, I don't even know where it was.
Kolkata.
Exactly. Okay, yeah. So I guess the food there is better, clearly. There's no biryani there because that would explain the way they played. But this is how one player can change the entire game. Fakhar Zaman worked today, and Babar Azam did not have to do anything. Rizwan did not have to do anything. Abdullah Shafiq, well, listen, let's not even we'll speak about him separately. But point being, Fakhar Zaman is the guy who can change your tournament for you. The only regret that I have, and the only regret that everybody should have, is why he was not playing 3 games ago. Because I can assure you, we would have done much better. And we would, even if you talk about fielding, if Fakhar Zaman was standing where Imam was, we would have had 150 runs less to chase. I don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, like the less I say is more in terms of Fakhar Zaman, because for him you don't have to say things, you can just watch. You can just see what he does to you, does to the team, and brings to the team. And the only regret is it didn't happen sooner.
Harmeet, you're a big Fakhar fan.
Yeah, I think when he got dropped, that was fair. Whether it's the Asia Cup or the Afghanistan series, he wasn't doing much. There's two arguments to that. You could say he was never going to succeed on those pitches anyway, so those performances shouldn't have been relevant when you're deciding a team for the World Cup. Or you can say if someone is having difficulty laying bat to ball, well, how long can you keep on playing them in the World Cup? So both sides make sense. When he got dropped, I was in favor of it because he just I just couldn't see him timing anything even in that first Dutch game. He was clearly early on the shot when he got out. So I think dropping him was fair. It wasn't a mistake. Sure, yeah, you had a few pitches where someone explosive like him could have worked. And Amar Bhai is right. He's the only really game-changing batsman you have in your team. He's probably the only one that's capable of rivaling the aggressive batsmen of the other top one-day teams. Uh, if we're being fair, there's basically no other batsman that is better than or comparable to their counterparts in England, Australia, India, New Zealand, at only at like a strike rate level than Fakhar. Babar, for all his runs, probably doesn't match up in terms of strike rate to those other teams, but Fakhar does. But if someone isn't in form, you just can't keep on playing someone because of past record. We've seen other teams do that. England did the exact same thing with Jason Roy in 2019. They dropped him. He came back. He eventually won them the World Cup. So these things happen. That's fine. So I think dropping him was fine. If they're being super harsh, they could have brought him back for the South Africa game just one match earlier, given his record versus South Africa, given his record versus Shamsi, especially considering how terrible we were at playing spin. But then again, Imam's prowess is also playing against spin. So again, that's just being too harsh. Coming to your second question, where it went wrong, I think it's more so tactically. It's been pretty obvious since the first match of the tournament that bowling isn't our strength. We have to bowl at least 10, if not 20 overs with bowlers who struggle to land the ball in the right place. And that's Shada, Musama, and Nawaz. So when your weakness is that glaring, you need the strength of your team to step up and sort of cover that up somehow. The strength being batting, and that just hasn't happened. If anything, in the South Africa match, you saw it go in the opposite direction. I think it was a simple tactical move, promoting Iftikhar to five and South to six, and basically cost you 50 to 60 runs in that first innings. I think it's pretty obvious. Numbers suggest, anecdotes suggest, highlights suggest that Iftikhar is a mug versus spin, but he can destroy pace at the death as he has done in this tournament already. And the data and anecdotes and the eye test also suggest that Saud Shakil is probably your best player against spin. So that one simple tactical move cost you. And I say simple because it's really simple. There wasn't a need for that. Saud had been one of your top three batsmen going into that match anyway. He'd shown his prowess versus spin, except that one match against India anyway. So I think that small tactical move, despite losing to Afghanistan, that one tactical move cost you, and it might cost us again because we saw Iftikhar came out at five today again. Now I don't know if that's because they wanted quick runs to boost their net run rate. So that's why he was sent out at five. Or if they've just logged on a permanent batting order where Iftikhar is at five and South is at six. So in the scenario that New Zealand somehow slips up, tactically we can't be making the mistakes that we have done in the past few matches. And if the car continues to be at five, there's no way we get past the line versus New Zealand and England. Just make the most of things that are in our control.
So you mentioned that we probably should have brought him back one game sooner. I would argue that two games sooner, the Australia game probably would have been better to bring him back. And I think
But
it's
it
a
would have
point
been
that,
the Afghanistan game, right? Then
sorry, the Afghanistan game. And I think it was the point that Amar made during the Australia preview. To me, what I'm hoping doesn't happen is we all go back at the end of this World Cup and look at that South Africa game as opportunity lost. Because you mentioned the Ifti versus Saud, but there was other areas in that. For example, when they were 9 down, Babar not going with a leg spinner, basically not trying to basically win the game right then and there, still trying to conserve. I think that South Africa game crystallized the lack of tactical acumen that the team possesses during pressure moments and its lack of ability to think on its feet. I think they have set plans and they're not able to change those set plans. Um, let's talk about opportunity lost versus South Africa. At the end of the day, we could say DRS, so on and so forth. But to me, I think that game, at various moments in that game, you had chances to win that game. And then to when you lose it with basically one wicket loss, it's all about the fine margins. Amar, what was your biggest sort of disappointment or yeah, about the South Africa loss, where you think that one decision could have changed? Was it Ifti Saud putting another 50 more runs could have changed it, or was it in the bowling, the captaincy?
Okay, so okay, yes. I think it was a bit of both. Okay, so I want to be the devil's advocate here, and I want to move away from the ifty debate. Okay, because at the end of the day, what happened was is that South still performed, right?
Yep.
South still gave you the runs that you expected him to
So
give you.
give you a half century,
So
correct?
so in if you look at it in hindsight, it's a balance. It balances itself out. Okay, my problem is, and this is a problem that I cannot wrap my head around. You know that meme where that person looks into the camera and says, "You're probably wondering how I got here." And that reminds me of Mohammad Nawaz because every time that guy has been given the last over, I don't know. First of all, I don't know why. Okay. And second of all, it's the same thing again and again. I think it's happened thrice now, or maybe twice. I don't even know. But it feels like it's happened much, much more than it needs to. The bowling was shocking. The fielding was shocking, of course. But I don't think the if the South thing would have been an issue because the way they were playing, the way they were bowling, your best bowler, apparently, some say he's one of the best in the world. I clearly disagree. Shaheen Afridi was getting smashed, and then he suddenly gets a wicket, and then he forgets how to bowl again. So, I mean, it, you cannot just I think it was a dismal performance across the board. I'm not going to sit here and give retribution to this team over one bad choice because I think it's a culmination of errors. You have being unable to field or stop a boundary, or you being unable to hold on to a catch, or you bowling a full toss or a half tracker and going for 70 runs in 10 overs. That's not You cannot negate that by blaming one error. You cannot do that. So for me, it's gone wrong in our bowling. The way they, of course, if the F6 would have helped more, I get it. 10, 15 runs, that's fine. But we should have had 300. We should have had 300. Imam ul Haq was a massive disappointment. And, all of these guys, it's a shame what is going on. I remember having this conversation with one of our friends where they said that it's going to take us 5 to 6 games to find our best team. And I honestly think today was our best team. The Bangladesh game, this was our best team. Mohammad Nawaz does not deserve to be anywhere near 10 feet of this team. And he's a nice guy, he's a nice player, but he's not good enough for this team. He's not good enough for this tournament, and he's not good enough for this captain. Because you as a player, you look to do something out of the box to please your captain. Nawaz knows that his captain trusts him so much that whatever he does, nothing is going to change. And that is a bad dynamic. If that is there, you cannot get rid of it easily. It has to be forced out, and that needs to change. So for me, I have honestly lost hope in the way that these boys are playing. Salman Ali Aga, he deserves he deserves the chance because how bad can he be? Can he be as bad as Nawaz? Because if he can be, that will take a lot of effort on his part. He will have to do a lot to pass that threshold.
Parmeet, your thoughts on Salman Ali Agha and this being the best team? To me, I think they stumbled upon this team. It wasn't because the think tank was like, well, let's look at the data of the past 6 games and let's come up with a better team. I think they just got lucky, basically. Shadab got concussion in the last game. Osama Mir came in. I mean, it's literally a disaster in how this team came about, and yet here we are.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is the best team. Any team that only is playing four proper
I was
bowlers.
going to ask you about that, but go ahead. You go on that.
Yeah, I've in all the ODI cricket I've watched, and against certain opposition you can get away with it, like Bangladesh or Afghanistan or the Dutch or even Sri Lanka. Probably not, but against some opposition you can get away with if the guy bowling 8 overs. But I don't think against New Zealand, if we go in with the same lineup with Aga at seven, it's going to help.
So,
I
what would you do against New Zealand now?
I would take Aga out and bring Hassan back in, if assuming he's fit. So I would go with four pacers, and basically Usama and FT make up your 10 overs.
So,
I,
not Shadab.
I think he got injured, so he will be fit. Okay, so
Because you can use his bat came in handy
yeah, okay,
against.
so if he's fit, then I don't know. I'll still okay. I don't. If I have to choose between his batting is handy, so that's a tough question. I think Osama, even though he's been garbage himself, he is the better bowler. Shadab, of course, adds a lot more value with the bat, but Osama still has shown that he can land the balls a bit more than Shadab does. If I have to choose, I'll probably take Shadab just because of his batting. Because I think even though Shadab is probably bowling worse than Osama, I think he can cover that up with his batting. And we've seen a few occasions already in this tournament that we've needed a few runs somewhere number 7 and 8 to get us across the line to post a par total. So yeah, so I would bring base. So I would take Aga and Osama out, bring in Hassan and
And
Shadab
Shadab.
because
Uh,
regardless of the combination of spinners we choose, playing more than one of them is suicidal at the moment. So I'd go with those two.
Amar, what would you do against New Zealand? How would you approach this? Because it has become a little bit of a conundrum now. How do they? Because
Yeah,
they,
it's.
if we had to defend a total today, they would have been screwed with that lack of a bowler.
I agree. I think that that's a good point that Pramit has made. I think that when it comes to an off spinner, I think that Salman Ali Agha is average, but then again, so is Ifti. I would just make one change. I would definitely not bring Hassan Ali because I am particularly fond of what Wasim Jr. has been doing in the last two games. And if used correctly, he can give you what you need in a much better manner than Hassan Ali can. He's quicker than him. He is, and I'm saying this with a heavy heart. He is equally as terrible a batsman as he is. Okay, so I'm not getting much from there as well. Yes, there's this question of having the new ball, right? That Hassan Ali can ball with the new ball. I'll be honest with you, having Rachin face Hassan Ali is not a very compelling argument for me. I would never want that to happen. I would rather him face Haris Rauf and have Wasim Jr. bowl in the middle overs. But then I think of Shadab Khan in this team, right? And then I think of Glenn Phillips, no, I think of Glenn Phillips, and I think of Darrell Mitchell, and I think what they're going to do to him, and my legs start shaking. So I would only make one change. I would take out Salman Ali Agha to bring Shadab in, and I would still make sure that Shadab is used as a sixth bowler as opposed to a fifth bowler. I would trust Ifti to bowl more and better than Shadab Khan. I mean, I hope his concussion is cured because I think he has way too many of them the way he's been playing. And it's just something that is habitual with him when it comes to big moments. I mean, there's a name for him that's going around. And I'm not going to move. I'm going to move on because I want to make my point. And the idea is that I don't trust Shadab Khan with the ball. I don't trust him that much with the bat either. Okay, I
He's
know he's
made some
played a couple of
boneheaded
good.
batting decisions this World Cup.
Yeah. I mean, he's done relatively well by his standards, but let's be real, Doc. We don't have much standards for him to begin with in one day cricket. So I don't think there's much to write home about with him. I have very strong opinions about Shadab. I don't even think he should be in the team. But, I think Abrar should be in the team. I think they should have leveraged Shadab Khan's concussion to have brought Abrar in for this game because we could have used him in this game and got him ready for the next one. But
But
yeah, so one
your
change.
Twitter analyst would have then said your batting lineup becomes thin.
That is true. That is true. Our batting lineup does become thin, but I'm just waiting for the day they all click. I'm just waiting for that day.
So that brings me to the next point. This 5 minute conversation that we just had just shows how deeply flawed and poorly constructed this team actually is. You basically have a bunch of square pegs you're trying to fit into round holes. Whose fault is that? Permeet?
Uh, I think there's a couple of reasons behind this. I don't think that there's much wrong in the selection. You just have too many people that are out of form at the same time. If we look at the bowling, I don't know if Haris Rauf's performance is dependent on. I know he had a side strain in the Asia Cup. I don't know if that's still hampering him, but he has just been a bit brainless. Even we saw today, I think in the first over before getting a wicket, he considered three fours on three half volleys, and that's been his same approach
In
in.
every game. That's become his par,
Yeah,
basically.
so either it's all the way up there, that's an easy straight or cover drive, or it's short and wide. So I don't know if that's hampering him or if he's just out of form. Shadab, Jared Kimber made a video on him. So basically, he's barely played many ODIs since the last World Cup. He's been injured quite a bit too. So this year he's played 14, if I'm not mistaken. But before this year, he's only played a couple each year. So in 2020, 2021, and 2022. So, and we've seen the same problem with England actually. You have a few players that haven't had enough ODI experience. So that is one thing that's gone wrong. Two, like I said earlier, there's just and Osama also actually. Osama when he played versus New Zealand earlier this year wasn't bowling like this. He was much better. He was bowling faster. His accuracy was better. He got Conway, Williamson out for very nice balls actually. He bowled better than I had expected, and he had some list experience behind him too. So I think it's partly bad luck, partly stupid decisions when it comes to tactics. Partly, you could say they're a fast bowler short in their squad to begin with, because we never see a Pakistan squad with only four pacers. You at least see five. If anything, they have more than they need. This time, they're actually taking less than they need. So it's been a bunch of issues, some unluck, but like Amar said, there have been controllables like tactics, like fielding, like your intent that just haven't been there, and that sort of also comes from the top, right? Sometimes you need to have a leader that is the one to take a different approach, and our one tends to be a bit more conservative, tends to stay
So
on the safe
let
side.
me ask you that about our leader, Amar. When Aiden Markham fell, 7 for 250, and then right after they were 8 for 250. They needed 21 runs, only 2 wickets in hand. Would a braver captain have steered it home from there?
Absolutely. Oh, I think a braver captain would not even have let them get to 250. I would, a braver captain would have won the game for you much before that point.
And that's my biggest premise with this World Cup is this has shown that with Babar as captain, there's certain games you may not win because it requires some out of the box thinking and some a ballsy approach to cricket, which I think his fear of failure handicaps him. Um, from making gutsy decisions. And I think
No,
a Rizwan would be better because he doesn't have that fear of failure because he's had to grind and grift for everything he's achieved. It's not come easy. So he plays with a little bit of a honey badger style. He doesn't care. He'll go for the guts and go for the glory. What are your thoughts on that,
okay,
Amar?
so I have very simple and concise thoughts on it because I think that first of all, it's bad for him and it's bad for the team. And the problem with that statement is that he is your best player. So if something is bad for your best player, then it is automatically bad for your team. Okay. And that affects everybody. So let's just start there. He is not good enough to be a captain. He does not have the personality to be a captain. He does not have the gravitas to be a captain. And when he opens his mouth, nobody wants to listen to what he is saying. Okay. And that is, I'm sorry, but that is a fact. No amount of hugs can fix that. Training photos where you're holding each other very closely cannot fix that. Media opinions cannot fix that. And fan clubs cannot fix that.
How about
If
cake?
cake, oh, well, listen, if cake could fix things, my life would be bloody amazing. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So my point is that it's like we are all living in this delusion. Like we love the player. I love Babar Azam more than anybody I know. Okay, like I sent a photo today in the group. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I love him more than I love my partner. I'll be honest with you. I love Babar Azam that much, but the fact is that the fact remains that he's a horrible captain. He's not a bad captain. He's a horrible captain. He does not inspire anything. He does not lead. He does not have the personality to be a captain. And if you don't have that, you cannot train yourself to be one. I'm sorry. But if you open your mouth and not everybody's listening to you in that dressing room, it's not going to change. I know how Pakistani people are. Okay, if we don't, if we don't like somebody leading us once, we're never going to like it. We're never going to get used to it. It's a cultural thing as well. It's a professional thing as well. There have been academic studies on it, studying leadership qualities, and this person does not have it. Does not mean he's a bad player. I think he's one of my favorite players. He's my favorite player right now. He's, I think, one of the best players in the world, but he's not a leader. He's not a captain. He does not inspire leadership. He does not inspire courage. If your captain does not inspire courage, you are not going to have moments of magic within your team. Nobody is going to be like, I want to grab this game by the scruff of the neck because your captain has never taught you what it's like. You don't know what to do in situations like that. I remember Ben Stokes in the World Cup final. He ties the game. He goes into the dressing room and he lights a cigarette. This is 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 2019 World Cup. He lights a cigarette and he says, "I'm going back out. I want to be the one holding it back." Now, I'm not saying Bauer wouldn't do that, but my point is that Ben Stokes. I'm just giving you an example. It's not a comparison. I'm just saying that captains most often lead by example, by their actions. Okay, and his actions on the field, off the field, like I saw a video of him fielding today on the ground and four people come up to him and they're laughing around him. You're losing 5 games, 4 games in a row in the World Cup. Okay, where is the shame? Like, did you leave it back in Bangalore or Hyderabad, or did you not bring it with you in the first place? I remember the heroes welcome this team got when they reached Hyderabad. We were all talking about it. We loved it, right? All of that is gone. It's gone. I have no sympathy for these people. I have no affection towards these people. They have let themselves down. They've let their country down. They've let their fans down. And most importantly, they've let themselves down. And I don't know if they have it within them to recover from that.
Parmeet, Babar's captaincy, South Africa, and just in general this World Cup, how would you crystallize it?
Yeah, so South Africa specifically, I hinted earlier at the Iftikhar Saud move again. I don't know if that's inspired by Mickey or if by Babar. I'll say it's, they're both involved in it. But even there's other things in the last over versus South Africa when we lost. I think I'm actually okay with them giving the ball to Nawaz. It's not like Usama is landing them where he should anyway. So I don't think that was a big thing for me. But the field placing was more important. Shamsi was on strike, and that's the batsman you want on strike because Maharaj is a properly, fully enough capable batsman. I think he scored quite a bit. I don't remember his exact score. He scored quite a bit against the Dutch earlier in the tournament when South Africa was trying to salvage their net run rate in that match. And he had square leg back. He had people. He had four fielders on the boundary, and he basically took a very simple single, and Maharaj finished it off. So I think those are the most basic things that even at amateur level cricket, you want to keep the number 11 on strike, right? Shamsi said after the match that there's no way he would have tried to slog because he knows there's another capable batsman on strike on the other end. And Babar had four people on the boundary. So I think there are like small things like that that basically cost you. And like to some other points too, if I go beyond the tactics, this gets more into his batting, but like I said, we've needed a batsman to stand up. Babar has scored runs, but have they been fast enough? Have they been? Has he had a statement knock? Not really, but that hasn't just been the case in this World Cup, right? I think my argument has always been that
Asia Cup, World Cup last year.
even forget that, like in his entire career, I don't think he has played many statement aggressive knocks to begin with. Uh, people bring up his record and bring up the 2019 World Cup, but apart from even in the 2019 World Cup, you only really have a couple of innings. Beyond that, he hasn't really
Plus,
said.
the pressure on him back then was not, he was not Babar Azam back in 2019. He was
I
just
just feel his approach always as a batsman, as a captain, has been
languid.
safety first. And unfortunately, when you have a team that's limited, as you said, there's too many holes in the team, you need to be a bit brave because the thing is with the conservative approach आप इज्जत से हारोगे but you'll still end up losing. It doesn't increase your chances of winning. There have been moments where he could have been a bit more brave. Sometimes he tries, and when he fails he doesn't try the next match again. So whether it's his batting, his captaincy, it's left a lot to be desired. And again, I don't we didn't need any out of the box thinking anyway. It's just sad to see him get the basics wrong. I think that's the biggest disappointment, that at the World Cup, when he's had approximately 3 years of experience in white ball cricket now, he's played multiple events, two T20 Asia Cups, two T20 World Cups, sorry, one T20 Asia Cup, one One Day World Cup, one Day Asia Cup, two T20 World Cups, and still then he's making sort of similar mistakes.
He's not an apprentice anymore, learning on the job. I was speaking to someone recently has who is close to the Pakistan team, who has experienced Babar Azam with in the PSL, and what he said was that when Sachin was captain, and Sachin had a great tactical acumen, but he couldn't harness that tactical acumen when he was a captain to really lift India. Babar, he said, doesn't have that tactical acumen, and although Sachin as captain was decent, the Indian team had to move to Ganguly to allow Sachin to be Sachin and to allow India to really achieve its peak. And he says it's very similar for Babar. He is neither an effective captain as captain, nor is he effective batsman as captain. And so, to Amar's point, you're harming it's harming both things. It's harming your best player's ability to be the best that he can be, but it's also harming your team from being the best that they can be. I think regardless of what happens in this World Cup, I think a change in that position is important, if only to free him from making those decisions. Um, Last thoughts, gentlemen. Any chance of making the semis?
There's always a chance. It's not.
Forget the other teams. Forget the other teams from losing. Do you think we can beat England and New Zealand?
Yeah, I feel again, not if we play only four bowlers and Iftikhar is our fifth bowler, definitely not. But I think if they play four pacers, there's definitely a chance. Next match is at Bangalore. Fakhar is in good nick, so anything can happen.
Do you think they stick with this opening pair, or do you think
Oh
they're going
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah. I think
Imam
definitely
is done?
Imam is done for the World Cup. I guess his career might be done for a while, given we don't play ODIs for another year anyway. But I think if they play with four pacers plus Shadab slash Osama, pick either one, um, then I think they have a chance to win both of their games. But again, this feel like Amar said, your fielding needs to be up to the mark. You can't have the same approach to the match as you did versus South Africa. Plus again, tactically, like I said, can't make the simple mistakes.
Amar Khan, Imam done. What's your reaction if you see him walking out in the middle with Abdullah Shafiq?
I would turn the TV off. I would break my TV. I'm not even kidding. I would throw that out of the window. Semi-final, no chance. No chance. There's more chance of me going to India to watch the semi-final live than the Pakistani team while being in India qualifying for the semi-finals. I can guarantee you that. Like I'm sure there would be better odds on me doing that than there is no way Pakistan is going to the semi-final. Please, everybody should snap out of that, nonsense of dream. It's not going to happen. We don't deserve to be there. Absolutely don't deserve to be there. We don't even deserve to be anywhere near where the semifinal is. We don't even deserve to be spectators for the semifinal. Like I'll be honest with you, I deserve to watch the semifinal because I've seen this team. I know what they've put me through. I deserve to have something good in my life. These people do not. This team does not. They don't need. They're not going to make it to the semifinal because they don't deserve to be in the semifinal. And if they do, I can assure you right now, if Pakistan team makes it to the semifinal, we are going to be stuck with this management. We are going to be stuck with this captain. We are going to be stuck with this establishment for the longest time. And that will do more damage to our team than anything else. So, for our betterment, for the betterment of the fans, for the betterment of the players, I am not expecting them to go to the semifinals. And I do not wish to see them there. I don't wish to see them there. And I think that is what I think is going to happen. We're coming home. It's coming home. We are coming home. It's not coming home. We are coming home. That's literally what's going to happen.
It's interesting because when I look back at the World Cup, I was looking at the scorecards. I go back to 155 for two against India. I go back to needing 100 off 70 odd against Australia. I go back to eight down,
the pain, dogs, the
eight
pain.
down. South Africa were eight down, still needing 20 plus runs with no batter left. They've had a lot of missed opportunities, and I think the fine margins are where elite coaching, captaincy, and management makes a difference. Whether it's fitness, fielding, I think I think they are probably one of the four most talented teams in the World Cup, strictly on talent, but they're not. They're not when it comes to putting it all together and actually playing.
You just want to add one anecdote to your point about elite coaching. I think that it's also about elite management of the professionals.
Yep.
I wanna point your attention to a story where it was the 2022 World Cup in Australia, and we were due to play New Zealand the next day, and Babar Azam was having a horrible tournament. And the day before the game, everybody had a day off, and Babar Azam and went up to Matthew Hayden, and he said, "Listen, I want to go practice. Do you want to come with me?" Babar Azam was the only player who went with Matthew Hayden, and Matthew Hayden spoke to him not only about the game, spoke to him about other things as well. I've heard this from people who are close to the team, and they've literally said that they spoke about the game. They spoke about because I'm sure you're aware Hayden is a very spiritual person, so he has his way of relaying his message. The next day, Babar Azam comes and he scores a 50, which eventually takes us to the final. And even in the final, he essentially was our best batsman, apart from Shan Masud. So these things matter. And in a short turnaround period, these moments, they make the difference. They elevate you from 60% to 90%, and from 90% to 120%. When I look into our dressing room, I do not see anybody there who can inspire that sort of confidence or commitment from any one of these players. I can only see one. His name is Mohammad Rizwan, but even he does it to himself. He does not does it. He does not have people around him telling him that, listen, you're great. He just does it because he's like that. He's the odd one out. So yeah, I mean, your point about elite coaching, elite management is very true because it's non-existent in our dressing room. It does not exist. We've got our coach watch. I mean, I don't want to go in there, but yeah, it's just not a very viable environment for progression of talent.
Last thoughts, Pramit?
Yeah, agreed on all points. I think Mickey is a certified failure, whether that's with Pakistan, with Sri Lanka. So bringing him back was a mistake to begin with. Uh, I think, mm, yeah, Babar has shown again over a substantial amount of time that he is not the right man for the job. Doesn't have the personality, doesn't have the tactics. Even though on the personality side, I don't really care about it, but if you don't have the tactics, you need the personality. He doesn't have either. So you need one of those to succeed, especially again with a team that's limited in certain areas. So yeah, like Amar said, getting to the semifinals somehow will paper over the cracks long term wise or even mid term wise. It's best if you don't, but of course, I'll hope till the last minute that somehow New Zealand mess it up. But yeah, probably not gonna happen.
I just want to say that Mickey Arthur is the same coach who thought he could fix Heather Ali.
That's
So if
true.
you have somebody like that managing your team, you have bigger problems than you think.
Yeah, I think Mickey Arthur understands the Pakistani audience. I think
Yeah, that's true.
he was hired earlier this year, in like 6 months back, maybe
Yep.
as the team director. In a press conference, video press conference, because he was, of course, not in Pakistan. He was in the UK. He was telling the journalists that we'll win the World Cup and we'll win the Australia Test series.
I
So
know, I remember.
he knows how to get the Pakistani audience excited. We are a bit gullible because he spent enough time with us. He spent 3 years with us in his first stint. But he's shown that again tactically he wasn't great in his first stint. He wasn't great with Sri Lanka, and again hiring him back wasn't uh, a great move to begin with. Especially his level of commitment was pretty obvious, which is fair. He shouldn't be quitting a job with a county, a safe job to come manage Pakistan. But when something is clearly not your priority, you can't really expect him to make any game breaking decisions anyway.
Thank you, gentlemen.